I'm George Takei, and this is the Shuttle Pod Show.
Cook, B, morale officer, C, ambassador, or D, engineer?
What's going on, Chris? Are you like in cahoots?
I think you control the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Captain Sulu just reprimanded me.
Gonna go and do my convention thing. Got my costume, I'm going now. Yeah, we're having a ball. It's Star Trek, y'all. Hey, down the border, beam me up!
Hey guys, welcome to the final episode of 2023 for the Shuttle Pod Show. Today we have very special guest, the one and only George Takei. We'll be answering your fan questions, playing some Star Trek trivia, finding ourselves on Connor's remote island, and much more. As always, our Patreon members get a full extended free version of this episode. I'm Erica LaRose, but before we move on, we have a special message from Andy Robinson.
Like, subscribe, and join us on Patreon.
Thanks, Andy.
And now for your hosts, Connor TRINNEER and Dominic KEATING.
Hello. We finish up season
Nice
2.
to see you too.
I see you've come as Madam Christmas.
Oh, yeah. He got the memo.
But I forgot the green.
Oh, yeah. We need a little green here. Connor, you have some nice green usually.
I do, but I don't today. No, I never got the memo.
You usually are the green guy. That's right.
Kind of, yeah.
Green's a good color for you.
Hey, look, you're away after Scotland after
You
this.
know what's a little bit of golfing with my friends.
Well, this is something. Ladies and gents, boys and girls, Treks, Trekkies and Trekkers, welcome back to the Shuttle Pod Show. I, as some of you know, am your co-host, Dominic KEATING. This is a delight. It's not often you get to sit down, frankly, with a living legend, but today we have that most distinct honour. This gentleman's career has spanned, I think, 6 decades now. He's been in at least 40 movies, hundreds of television episodes. Some of the episodes our fanish family will know quite well. He has graced the stage all over the globe and even recently made his Broadway debut and trod the boards in dear old London town with his wonderful musical theatre piece, Allegiance. I think what I respect and admire most about this gentleman's career is that he started out, much like many of us, as a journeyman actor. And through his sheer charm, wit, grace, prodigious talent, and sheer determination, he has most absolutely become a household name. Many would have just used that to book dinner tickets, dinner reservations rather, and theatre tickets, and I'm sure he's done that too. But he has used it to good use, and he has campaigned tirelessly for the rights of LGBTQ plus people and marriage equality, and so also notably for fostering Japanese-American relations. I'm just chuffed that this man even knows my name, and if pressed, might even call me a friend. Ladies and gents, I give you George Hisato Takei.
Yay!
Wow.
Thank you very much for that.
Well,
Fantastic.
And that's our show. That's the whole show.
And we're out of time.
What an absolute delight,
I'll
George.
pay you after the show.
First question I want to ask you is, you and your brother, Henry, were named after kings of England. You're George VI and he was Henry VIII. What was that connection that your father had for the love of the kings of England?
My father, I guess you would call, was an Anglophile. Mm-hmm. He loved all things English. He loved English clothes, English cars, although he didn't have an English car. I did that for him when I started buying cars.
Did you? Bless.
But he had all the kings and queens memorized. Amazing for an immigrant from Japan.
Well, did it start back in Japan, growing up as a boy, or when he came to America?
I think when he came to America.
Right.
And I was born propitiously 3 weeks before the coronation of a king,
Yes.
George VI.
Yes.
And he said, this is what I was meant to do. And so he named me after an English king.
Beautiful.
A Japanese American
Right.
named
I know,
after
right,
an English king.
You were nearly a Neville, weren't you? Was that after Chamberlain?
They did debate. You did read my autobiography.
I do my homework, love.
He also
Neville Takei doesn't have quite the same ring, does it?
No, and I'm sure my grandparents could. They probably would have called me naval.
Your brother and sister, is it Rico or Reiko?
Reiko.
Are they still with us?
Yes, they are.
God bless.
Yes,
that's lovely to hear.
My sister's, however, the youngest one is now in assisted living, and both Henry and I are. I guess if you have a British king's name, you're ensured of a bit more longevity.
You better carry on.
Yes, Queen Mother lived to 101.
Yeah, she was a good old bird, and she liked her gin. There's always the story about it. A gin and tonic, easy on the tonic.
Yeah, she polished off a whole bottle of gin.
She could hit it down.
At least according to lore.
Yeah.
I wonder how close to truth that lore was.
Right.
Because my doctor advised against it.
Don't they all?
Yes,
Nuts.
it did.
So you're born in LA, aren't you? And then very soon, I suppose this is it. Here we are. We get into this. You're 5 years old, and Pearl Harbor happens.
No, actually, I was 4 when Pearl Harbor happened, December 7th, 1941.
Right.
But my birthday is on April 20th, in 1942.
Right.
I turned 5. And it was 3 weeks after my fifth birthday that my father, very early that May morning, he came into the bedroom I shared with my brother, Henry, and dressed us hurriedly and told us to wait in the living room while he and our mother did some last-minute packing in their bedroom. Our baby sister was in a cradle in their bedroom. So Henry and I went into the bedroom, but there's nothing to do. And so we decided to stand by the front window and just gaze out at the neighborhood. And suddenly, we were getting kind of bored, because nothing was happening. Yeah. We saw 2 soldiers marching up our driveway.
Oh my God.
They carried rifles with shiny bayonets on them. And our front window was looking down on the steps to our porch. They stomped up the porch and with their fists began banging on the front door. We were terrorized.
Fearful.
My father came rushing out, answered the door, and one of the soldiers pointed his bayonet at my father. Henry and I were just petrified. And they said, one said, "Get your family out of this house." I mean,
what sort of warning were they given that this was going to happen? Do you know what official, did they get some letter or something?
No. On February 19th, 1942, President Roosevelt, the President of the United States.
Executive Order 9066.
9066. Yeah. You do know your American history, despite your British heritage.
We used to own the place.
He's still sort of.
Did you see Hamilton?
I never saw it actually live. Seen it on telly, but didn't see it live.
King George III.
I'm just about to start reading the book, actually, funny
You'll come back.
You'll come back.
No, we didn't. We came to help them. Help you guys.
So there was no information. There was no notice that this was going to happen.
It went over the wire, didn't it? Over the radio.
It was on the radio, and they had posters on the telephone poles and all the public places.
Bloody fearful, man.
No personalized. Because
this could happen again in the next 4 years.
And when President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066. He had no basis in fact. We were Americans. Mm. Pearl Harbor was bombed in Japan, the Japanese. We were Americans. My mother was born, raised here.
In Sacramento, right?
Sacramento, California. And my father was brought here as a boy,
He's a
brought to
naturalized
San
citizen.
Francisco.
Yeah.
And he was educated, reared, went to college in San Francisco. We were Americans, and yet we had this face.
Yeah.
And this country went wild with war hysteria. My parents couldn't walk down the sidewalk without getting yelled at, spat at, and some people were. My parents weren't attacked, but some Japanese Americans were attacked on the street.
Oh, look what's just happened with COVID and Asian Americans.
That's usually a good idea. And my father had a high-end dry cleaning shop right off of Wilshire Boulevard, right next to Bullock's Wilshire.
All right.
And Roosevelt
They just took it all.
froze our bank accounts.
Everything.
Oh my gosh.
No money.
Took the house, took the business, took the money.
We didn't have the money with which to pay the mortgage. We didn't pay it. The business was destroyed.
Terrible.
And my father's car, brand new, was graffitied with red paint. Had
Jap.
3 letters on it,
Yeah.
JAP. I mean, we had nothing to do with Pearl Harbor other than look like this. And then on that fateful morning in May, these soldiers came and ordered us out. And when the soldier said, "Get your family out of this house," my father gave Henry and me a little box tied with twine that had our underwear for us to carry. And then he hefted 2 heavy suitcases, and we followed him out onto the driveway and waited for our mother to come out. And when she came out, escorted by the other soldier, she had our baby sister in one arm, a heavy duffel bag in the other, and tears were streaming down her cheeks.
Oh, George.
The terror of that morning is one that's seared into my memory.
And no idea where you're going.
Well, you were carted off to Santa Anita, weren't you?
Before that, we were put on a truck with other Japanese American families and their luggage that was gathered, and they drove us downtown to the Buddhist temple, and we saw hordes of Japanese people on the sidewalk and a row of buses on the street lined up, and we were loaded onto those buses, and the buses took us to Santa Anita Racetrack. And
To the horse stables.
what?
To the horse stables.
Yes,
That
we
they
were
sort of
unloaded and
Converted.
we herded over to the stable area, and each family was assigned a horse stable to sleep in.
Oh my gosh.
My I still remember my mother mumbling under her breath, "Humiliating,
Oh, God.
so humiliating."
Frightening.
My father was stone silent, didn't say a word. But he did tell us, Henry and me, that this is where the horses stayed. We were excited.
Well, because
We get to
kids.
see where the horses. Then I took a deep breath and said, "Daddy, I can smell them."
Yeah.
2 different vantage points on the same experience.
Yeah.
That's how, and I'm sure that tortured our parents that much more. You know, they're feeling so completely stripped down, bare, and disgraced and humiliated. And the kids are saying, "We're going to sleep where the horses sleep."
Well, there's no prospect. You don't know how long this is going to be for. You don't know. There's just, you're just now, your freedom is gone.
Aiming guns at us. And that part was scary for me. You know, I remember that. But then once people are milling around, and so we were there, the camps were still being built. There were 10 camps
10, weren't they? Yeah.
in some of the most desolate, godforsaken places in this country.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the blazing hot desert of Arizona?
Yeah.
We were sent, as it turned out, to the swamps of Arkansas.
Yes.
There were camps on the high plains, windswept, bitterly cold high plains of Wyoming, Idaho, Utah.
You ended up at a nasty one, but we'll get to that in a minute. Tule Lake was pretty desolate, wasn't it?
We were moved 3 times.
But you went to Roa first, weren't you, in Arkansas?
First to Santa Anita.
And then to Roa.
They said, you're going to pack up again. And they said, we're going to take you by train. They didn't say where. With no destination known, we were loaded onto trains. And for Henry and me, this was another exciting adventure.
Right.
Yeah.
We were going to go on a train ride.
Yeah.
You know, I'd never ridden on a train before.
Right.
But then once the 3rd hour passed, and it was just desert, western desert.
Right.
It got to be boring, and my mother was prepared for that. That huge duffel bag of hers, which was very heavy, had storybooks for Daddy to read to us, candies and lollipops and animal cookies and Cracker Jack boxes.
Right.
And so that was a magical bag. Whenever Henry started to whine or get bored, she would go in there and get us some goodies. And my mother didn't trust the water that we were going to be drinking. So she went out and got individual canteens for the 2 of us.
No kidding.
My sister was a baby, so she didn't get a canteen. So we got our own canteen to drink out of. It was lukewarm water, and that made it even more exciting for us. So here again, 2 levels of the same experience. For my parents, going to an unknown, terrifying future.
Everything taken from them.
Everything taken. The bank account was frozen. Money taken. Business destroyed. Home taken.
The whole life just,
completely.
When did you realize the severity of what was happening? The impact of what was happening?
Well, the first day, morning that the soldiers came, I mean, that was terrifying. But then, isn't that funny for children? The soldiers, when they were just standing around, they became part of the landscape.
Right.
When we arrived well, first of all, the boring desert ended when we started to see shrubbery and foliage, and then this lush, dense foliage, great, huge trees that rose up from black water, and their roots came out and twisted and turned, went back in, came out, back in like a snake. And so, and we're Southern Californian kids, we're used to palm trees.
Right.
But something like that, where roots come in and out of the water, and these great, huge trees. Absolutely fascinating. And then it started to slow down, and then we saw they built the camp right parallel to the railroad track, and we saw these barbed wire fences, and very shortly we saw masses of Japanese faces all crowded up, staring at us, and behind them were rows and rows and rows of black tar paper barracks, and occasionally we passed sentry towers with stern-looking soldiers glaring down.
Incredible.
In the watchtower.
In the watchtowers.
Yeah. It's like Colditz.
This was to be our home in Arkansas, the farthest east of the 10 camps. And one of those barracks also turned out to be one of our schoolhouses.
So there was schooling.
There was schooling.
What did the adults do other than prepare their own food? And
we had a white lady that came in, and I remember on the first day, she came in and said, "I'm going to teach you the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag," and she pointed to the flag at the head of the class, and she said, "You will memorize that, and we will begin every school day with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag." And so I have memories of putting my hand on my chest and reciting the words,
I pledge
with
allegiance.
liberty and justice for all. But right outside our schoolhouse window, I could see the barbed wire fence and the sentry towers.
It didn't ring true.
Well,
How could it?
yeah, I was a young
Certainly
kid.
hollow.
Yeah.
You know, the stinging irony
Sure.
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
went over
On
my-
a slightly brighter note, I know that I read in your book that so you used to get to watch some old Japanese movies,
Yes.
at Roa in particular, and there was a man at the front of the screen because there was no sound.
Yes.
And he's called a benshi, right?
Right.
Tell
You
us
have a
about
good memory.
Tell us about the benshi. This is the first time you look at something and go, I wouldn't mind doing something
More
like
than
that.
I was absolutely fascinated. You know, this was in the mess hall.
Mm-hmm.
They dragged the tables away and lined the benches up, and there was a big white sheet, probably a bed sheet, hung on the wall, and they showed Hollywood movies as well.
Oh, they did?
I remember seeing Charles Lawton in Hunchback of
Right.
Notre
Oh,
Dame.
yeah.
Right.
And I thought he was a wonderful actor.
Yeah.
And that poor hunched man.
Yeah.
And they treated him so terribly.
Yeah.
But then the Japanese samurai movies was missing a soundtrack. However, this man came with the movie, and if that was or the screen, he had a little table at the left-hand corner, and he had a young man seated beside him, and on the table was a script as well as coconut shells and
A sword? No, they wouldn't give you a sword. But
a triangle
Right,
and iron bars to make that sword fighting sounds. And he had memorized the dialogue of every one
Wow.
of the characters. One man. And so the show.
he knew his lines, Connor.
I would never have gotten that joke.
Is there a subtext here? That
Oh, Connor.
Have you ever
You
seen
stumbled
Blu-ray?
into that one, George.
that one man did the Shogun. And the samurai would say, "Ah, so de gozaimasu." And the princess would say, "No, one man,
He's doing them all.
the voices coming.
Wow.
Through a portion of the film, I was more riveted on the man
Right.
rather than on the action.
No kidding.
He was so fascinating. And that was my introduction to dubbing.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's how you started out, wasn't it? I mean, we'll get there, but you did Rodan.
Yes.
Or you wrote a book about this experience, a graphic novel.
Yes.
And you brought it with you.
They
It's
called
right
us
here next to
Enemy.
Erica.
Yes, They Called Us Enemy, which is a 5-time New York Times bestseller. And yeah, it's quite an extraordinary
Wonderful.
piece.
This is my childhood imprisonment. And you get an idea. Well, this depicts Tule Lake, the next camp we were moved to.
Well, we'll get so-
because the
yes.
Arkansas camp was very lush. Plants and
And then there's a reason why
sultry.
you got moved from
Yes.
Roa to Tule, and
Because-
you should elucidate that, because it's also part of the plot for Allegiance, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
We were imprisoned by our own government for a year with no charge, no trial, no due process. And the government realized that there was a wartime manpower shortage. And here were all these young men and women that they could have had,
Yeah.
but we were categorized as enemy alien, which was a lie.
So-
We were neither. We weren't the enemy and we weren't aliens, but they needed us. Their challenge and their dilemma was, how do you justify drafting enemy aliens that are already imprisoned in a barbed prison camp?
How long into the war was this? Was this about a year?
year.
A year, right?
A year.
Yeah, right.
And so their solution, in the chaos and confusion of a wartime, a lot of incompetent people got placed in the bureaucracy of government and the military. And the solution to the dilemma they had was a loyalty questionnaire.
Yeah.
The nerve of them.
Yeah.
A loyalty questionnaire after they accuse you of being what we weren't. They take your money, they take your home, destroy your business, subject you to all this stress, and then now they want our loyalty.
Hypocrites.
Idiocy.
The
It's
least.
idiocy.
That is very polite. That
And
is
one of the questions, 28.
Well, there were
two,
two
weren't there?
key
Yeah.
questions,
Yeah.
and it was a series of about 40 questions, but they needed to get yes answers to two key questions. Question 27 and 28. Question 27 asked, are you willing to serve in the United States military on combat duty wherever ordered? For my parents, it was a preposterous demand. They had 3 young children.
Yeah.
One, just a toddler. And by that time I was 6, Henry was 5. They were asking my parents, are you willing to abandon your children behind barbed wire with no other provisions made for them and bear arms to defend a nation that's
Locked you
holding
up.
your children prisoners? They answered that question as truthfully, as honestly as they could. No, the most logical response to that. The other question, question 28, was one sentence with 2 conflicting ideas. It asked, will you swear your loyalty to the United States of America and forswear your loyalty to the Emperor of Japan? We're Americans. We never even thought of the Emperor, much less consider pledging loyalty to him. And for them to assume that just because of this face, we had an inborn racial loyalty to the emperor was insulting.
It was a catch-22.
Well,
Yes.
also, the Italians and the Germans didn't have
That's
the
right.
same scenario
No.
to them whatsoever.
And they were the enemy. And we weren't the enemy. We were Americans.
Right.
You're right.
And so they expected a yes answer to that. My parents answered honestly, truthfully, because it was one sentence. And so if you answered yes, meaning I do swear my loyalty to the United States, that yes applied to the second part of the same sentence, meant that you were confessing that you had been loyal.
Right. There was no win to this.
If you
questionnaire.
answered no, meaning I don't have a loyalty to the emperor, that no applied to the first part of the same sentence as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
Will you swear your loyalty to the United States? It was a no-win question. You lost with a no, and you lost with an yes. Yes.
And that's what got you now taken to, upgraded to Thule security.
2 no's,
Yeah.
and they were recategorized now, and not as enemy aliens, but disloyal. I mean, such craziness. I mean, if we were an enemy and an alien, how could we become disloyal to the United States?
And now you're getting to be an age where you're kind of understanding this.
Well, what I remember, I mean, I was 6 years old. One night, something woke me up, and I woke up, and there were my parents across the same room, and they had a kerosene lamp, and my mother was crying, and you get worried when you wake up in the middle of the night and your mother's crying. I said, "Mama, don't cry," and they rushed over and put the blanket over me and said, "No, we're talking about adult things. Everything's all right. Go back to sleep." But I speculate that was when they were discussing the loyalty questionnaire, and they were torn. I can't remember the term, but we're going to be repatriated.
Shipped out.
Right.
But her
To
home
what?
was
To where? Yeah.
Sacramento, California.
Right.
I mean, that's where she was born, and yet she was going to be exported to Japan.
You get placed in purgatory.
war-torn place in ruins. People there are hungry,
Right.
and send our people,
Americans.
who were goaded into renouncing their citizenship. And my mother had the name of the ship that she was going to be sent back on. And my father said, the family is going to stay together. And so I owe who I am to this attorney that came to her defense, Wayne Collins. He is an extraordinary American, an Irishman.
Oh, yeah.
His parents came from
Collins,
Ireland.
right.
And he believed with a passion in the United States Constitution. And he defended my
Yeah,
mother.
the Irish know a bit about suffering.
Yes, they know something about
They
suffering
sure do.
too. Yeah, indeed. Still.
Yeah, no kidding.
Still.
Yeah.
Northern
Oh, yeah.
Ireland.
No.
And so my mother had her ship, the first ship to leave for Japan. And my father said, we're going to go with you. And my father had no choice because he was an alien. And Wayne Collins got a mitigation order to have hearings on my mother's case, and at the last minute saved her. In fact, literally, my mother didn't have to board the ship. But
close, wasn't it?
Yeah, he went running up the gangplank with a list of names and said, "You Yamada, you Tanaka, I have your mitigation. Come with me." We were not on board the plane, but or the boat, but we were saved by Wayne Collins.
It's close.
I wonder if it hadn't been for Wayne Collins, what kind of a human being I would be at this age.
No kidding.
I may not be speaking English.
All right.
I may be very embittered,
Yeah.
be very hostile.
Yeah.
One person
Yeah. Isn't that
changed
something?
that. No,
So you finally let out of the camps, and the
Do you
family.
go to another one, or is
no,
that?
No,
the
war ends.
war's over.
Oh, okay.
And you've got
War's over.
nothing. I mean,
And,
literally nothing.
we didn't trust
suitcases.
the outside world.
No.
I mean, the war is over.
And you end up on Skid Row in
Yeah.
LA.
Well, my father left camp first, right before
That's
Christmas of all times.
Right.
A few weeks before Christmas. He went back to Los Angeles to scout out
Yeah.
how safe it is and to find a job and a place to stay.
Right.
And he said, "You'll be right back." We didn't hear from him. Or we did hear from him, but no come on over kind of letter. 10 weeks later, and I don't remember that Christmas. We always celebrated Christmas in camp, and I have fond memories of it, except for the Christmas of 1945.
5, right.
And finally, in February of 1946,
He comes back.
the letter came. My mother got the letter saying, "I found a place. I've got a job. Come on
He
down."
was washing dishes, wasn't he? Bless him. God
Only
bless
other
him.
Asians would hire us.
Fucking amazing.
A Chinatown restaurant as a dishwasher. And our first home was on Skid Row.
Alta Hotel.
You
I know
do
my stuff.
learn your history well.
Yeah.
And-
you were there quite a little while, weren't you? I
Oh,
mean,
we
yeah,
were.
It was a good couple of months.
5
of-
years?
Yeah, I mean, really on Skid Row.
Yeah, about 4 months.
Oh,
And
One room.
one room,
Yeah.
no
Grim.
kitchen,
Nothing.
nothing. He bought a portable radio, though, and my whole world opened up. Bobby Benson and the BYB Riders.
Right.
I went to the American West, or Gangbusters,
Right.
Manhattan, and
Right.
just listening to that, I discovered a whole new world.
So the germination is happening again. That this is something maybe that it's got your attention anyway. Yeah.
There on Skid Row,
Yeah.
that portable radio that Daddy bought
How about that?
for us, and
And then there were some years in East LA on the barrio.
And the barrio.
Yeah, they sounded amazing, an amazing time and happy time.
Because I think any other part of Los Angeles would have been hostile to us.
Yeah.
But the Mexican Americans were discriminated against group of people.
Yeah.
And the kids were warm and friendly, and our next door neighbor was Mrs. Gonzalez, and my mother and she made a great friendship, and they lived in each other's kitchens. My mother learned how to cook Mexican.
Yeah.
Really?
And the best enchiladas in all East LA.
Amazing.
There's a lovely description. He eats his first burrito around it. What's everybody's name? Oronato or something?
Honorato.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And you eat your first burrito. Can you imagine eating your first burrito? When before it was like a burrito.
Right.
We walked back from school together, and he would say, "Come on over to my mother's kitchen," and I discovered the fantastic, all-embracing, warm scent of a Mexican-American kitchen right after tortillas were made. That scent.
So how long are you in East LA before Dad saves up enough money, and then you kind of go back to Wilshire, don't you? And
We did.
yeah.
The dry cleaning shop was an abandoned shop. So he built the business up and made a nice profit.
And sold it off as it
Sold
went,
it.
right?
And he bought a grocery store.
That's right.
In the African-American neighborhood, Watts, which had its challenges too.
I bet.
The crime problem. But he was able to...
This is the 50s? Sorry, this is around
yes.
the
This is the...
50s.
Getting to the 50s now, isn't it? Yeah.
No, it's still in the 40s.
Late 40s.
Oh, is it?
And in 1950, my parents were very frugal. They had saved up enough for a down payment on our first home that they bought.
Right.
3-bedroom, 2 bathrooms, and a music room.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't know what their payment...
Is this back along the Wilshire corridor?
Yes.
Yes, right.
And I later on discovered they bought that house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a music room, and a dining room for $10,000.
Yes.
Wow.
I don't know what their payment was, but
Quite a lot of money back then. It wasn't nothing. No.
They had to scrimp and save.
Yeah.
But they bought that home, and by that time I was a teenager, I think 13, and getting curious about the internment, and I started asking him questions. I later learned that so many Japanese American parents of my parents' generation were so wounded by the internment that they never discussed it with their children.
Right.
But my father did, and he knew more than most Japanese American parents because he was a block manager.
Right. Yeah.
He negotiated with the administration for a lot of things.
Right.
And I learned, ironically enough, about American democracy from my parents.
Yeah.
He used to quote to me Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, that famous quote, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. He said those are noble ideals, but therein also lies the weakness of American democracy, because people are fallible human beings, and even great presidents are human beings. He admired Roosevelt during the 1930s when the country was in a crushing depression.
Yes.
People unemployed.
All the programs that employed people and
But there was rampant suffering,
Yeah.
hunger, unemployment,
Yeah.
and people were lined up for a bowl of soup. It was that kind of America. The spirit of America was broken. And in order to bring the economy up, he had to bring up the spirit of the people. And he said to America, there's nothing to fear but fear itself.
Yep.
But, my father said, after Pearl Harbor, even this great president
He bent.
became fearful.
Yes.
Because the West Coast was just like Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
We were open, vulnerable, unprepared. And that fear and the hysteria that was sweeping the country, assaulting Japanese Americans, American citizens.
Yeah.
He got swept up in that. And in February 19th, 1942, he signed Executive Order 9066 and ordered us into imprisonment.
Yeah.
Innocent people
Yeah.
that were categorized arbitrarily and irrationally as enemy aliens.
How many people?
125,000.
125,000 people.
Yeah.
Holy
All up and down the
smokes.
West Coast, from Washington to San Diego.
Only on the West Coast. It
Only
wasn't.
because that was the...
That's basically where the community was.
right.
Yeah. On the way up to Mammoth, when I go snowboarding, I would drive past Manzanar all the time.
Did you stop
just
and-
stare at it and go, fucking hell.
They've rebuilt some of the buildings.
Right.
And it's a kind of a museum. At the Japanese American National Museum, we have the original barracks from Heart Mountain, Wyoming.
Right.
And you get an idea of the flimsy construction. I remember we had spaces between the boards and the cold air,
Right.
particularly at Tule Lake.
Do you carry any resentment as an adult man, or did
My
you?
father said,
It'll kill you.
our democracy, as Abraham Lincoln said, is a people's democracy. It's ours, but there are a lot of ours, and some are not us specifically.
Well put.
And he said, we all have our citizenship responsibility as Americans, and we've got to participate to make that noble ideal reality. And he said, we have to be engaged in the process. And he told all of his children, be involved at school, volunteer. And I became a volunteer for the Junior Red Cross whenever there was a hurricane or a flood or something like that. And I became active in student government, became student body president in middle school.
And he never stopped. I mean, that civic mindedness.
And
that was instilled in me by my father.
But the idea that with all of the struggle, the imposition put upon you, that you didn't give up on the idea of being an American and your responsibility as an American.
We have citizens' responsibility, public service. And he really emphasized that. And he even behind barbed wires, he was giving public service by serving as a block manager.
Right.
And his intent was primarily for the community.
Yeah,
and
amazing man.
Administration was the adversary.
I know as a young adult, you berated him, didn't you, for sort of leading the family like sheep to the...
As a teenager.
Yeah.
A passionate
I know.
teenager.
I know, yeah.
Oh, teenagers.
Yes.
I got one of my own.
I was listening to an interview you were giving about your performance in Allegiance, and you have to break down on a nightly basis. And you used that moment, and the fact that you never really sort of cleared it up with him. You meant to go back the next morning and let him know that you didn't really mean that, and it just never got mentioned again, did it?
The discussion got very intense, and so I said, I shouted at my father, "Daddy, you led us like sheep to slaughter into the barbed wire fences, camps." And suddenly our conversation stopped. He was silent, looking down, and I realized I had heard him.
Yeah.
I touched the moon, and he looked up at me and said, "Well, maybe you're right." And he got up, went into his bedroom, closed the door. I was devastated. This man that I love, that did so much for my life. And I heard him, and I felt like going up to this bedroom door and knocking and apologizing, but it was so awkward. And I thought, well, I'll apologize tomorrow in the morning. But when morning came, it was even more awkward. And I didn't. And the more time that passes, the more awkward it becomes. And
do you think he harbored anything after that, or did he just? Do you think? How do you think he went away with that in those years after? I mean, or was he just an extraordinarily forgiving man? And this is, the histrionics of a young adult.
He understood. He knew me.
He knew you.
I hoped he did, but I think he did.
Yeah.
And he never brought it up.
God bless him.
And made it even more awkward for me to bring it up. And
because I mean, he didn't particularly. I'm sure he didn't particularly want you to be an actor. No. But Lord knows, and you
Whose
went off
parents do?
It's a classic.
Well, there are a couple. They're not particularly nice people.
They're stage
You ask Macaulay Culkin.
That's true.
Don't get smart, Tiny.
Don't call me Tiny.
Do a lot of theater in high school?
Are we rolling? Are we just doing it?
We are rolling.
All right. Well,
I ushered at the Biltmore Theater downtown for free.
Did you really?
I made friends with Mrs. McManus, the house manager.
Oh my gosh!
And we had a bargain. I'll come in usher for you for free if you let me see the show.
All the movies.
The Biltmore is a recurring theme through your life in LA, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's an amazing thing that I noticed that.
Biltmore Hotel.
Yeah.
That was Adley Stevenson's.
Old world LA, baby.
Yeah.
So you really want to be an actor, probably. You haven't quite admitted that to yourself inside yet, but you're a good Japanese boy, American citizen, and you're going to do kind of what Dad wants and Mum and Dad wants. And so you had an interest in architecture.
I had Daddy had architectural magazines on the cocktail table.
Right.
And on weekends, he would take me out to a construction site.
Yes.
And tell me what's going to be built there.
Was he in real estate by this point?
He was in real estate by then.
Yeah.
At the intersection of Wilshire and Santa Monica, there was a huge, deep excavation. And he said, on this site will be a great luxury hotel. And sure enough, that's where the Beverly Hilton is.
Wow, yeah.
No kidding.
So he would take me all over, and point out, well, the other thing was he wanted us to go to college, Henry and me, and our sister too. The destination point for these Sunday afternoon drives was to go to various campuses in Southern California, Occidental College, USC, UCLA, and he would point out that's a great building called Royce Hall, and that's the main building. And see those people sitting on the step there and reading books? They're college students studying. You notice that? And then we go to SC, and there are kids lying on the lawn and reading their books. And he would point out they're college students and they study hard. And so when we went to Occidental, we said, Daddy, look, there are college students playing Frisbee.
That's really fun.
No, they're studying physics.
I should have thought of that.
Good. So you get into Berkeley. That's a good school, and you go up and read architecture.
As an architecture student, and I did all right, but the fire was there, still in an ember, but it was there. And when I was back in Los Angeles, I would go to the Biltmore Theater to see all the Broadway shows that came through LA. Oh, I'm not supposed to put my
That's right.
hand up.
My camera's perfect. You're not even going into my camera.
Keep at it. Love.
I'm right-handed, so forgive my right hand.
Reach out a bit more and that'll be good.
Wave all you like. Inch over a bit.
Which one's your camera?
This guy right
Who
here.
cares?
The red one. Oh, I see.
You're catching on. It's all unusable.
Which is Dominic?
Never you mind.
This one.
I gotta
That
clean.
one.
You got to reach out for that
Yeah,
one.
that's a little bit
Kick a
out of
leg.
reach.
So Frank Lloyd Wright, I know, was a great inspiration to you, wasn't
that
he?
was an extraordinary experience.
Why not? Yeah.
And he was a theatrical man. Mm-hmm. He kept us with it's the biggest lecture hall up at Berkeley, and the place was crammed.
He taught you?
No, he was a guest speaker.
He came and visited, yeah.
And so the architecture students had the first entry, but there were other students that wanted to sit through. And by the time that we had a full house, so they allowed them to sit on the steps of the aisles.
Right.
And we had a crammed house, and no Frank Lloyd Wright. We waited, and we waited. The professor would come out and kind of vamp time for him a little bit. And finally, we heard people's voices and hurried sounds, and in sweeps this magnificent man.
Like Sherlock Holmes.
No, he wore, everything was in black overcoat, because Berkeley is not a warm place like UCLA. And he had this pork pie hat and white hair cascading down, sort of like yours. And he makes this great entrance, and he swirled his overcoat off and throws it on a chair there, and he starts speaking. And he was a mesmerizing speaker, and he knew how to use his props too. There was a book there, and he would slam that book when he wanted to make an emphasis. And then when he was done, we stood up to give him a standing ovation, but he grabbed his overcoat and he was gone, and the door slammed.
Yeah.
And here we are,
Still clapping.
applauding, unending applause.
You're welcome. That's great.
He was spectacular, and I got more from making a theatrical entrance from that great architect than I.
So even as you're an architect student, you're like, that was a good exit. Not even followed by a bear.
Exactly.
So how you do a year and you finally pluck up the courage.
Well, I was back for summer holiday.
Did you do Venetian blinds that summer holiday?
I did.
That's coming back to me. This man went to some of the biggest homes in Hollywood, Eva Marie Saint's included.
Eva Marie Saint, Jeanette MacDonald.
Unbelievable. And I don't know, I wouldn't trust myself he put up Venetian blinds.
I got
And he was drilling
summer
holes
job.
in posh houses.
Wow.
Wow.
He was the only operative for
And
this.
I had just seen on the waterfront.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
she won the
her.
bloody Oscar for it.
I never saw her at her home, but this was her home.
Amazing.
Wow.
I'm driving these screws into her windows.
Oh, my
I'm not sure I
goodness.
trust myself. You did a good job, huh?
Yeah. George Fowley was owner of the company.
Yeah.
And
It was a husband and wife team, wasn't it?
husband and wife
Yeah.
team, and the factory was a garage down the alley from. This was in West LA on Wilshire Boulevard. The front was the showroom for the Venetian blinds. Actually, they're easy to do.
Are they?
You know, these slats, and I just chopped the slats, and then it's a machine, and you punch the holes in it,
Right.
and then you string the ladders or staple the ladders onto them. So it's easy to do. And
Sounds like a bloody heart attack to me, love.
I was an architect. And so I had this summer job. I came home one evening, and my father said, I circled an ad in the Japanese American paper, Rafashimpo. It's a daily newspaper, half English, half Japanese. And he circled this ad in the English section. They were auditioning for Japanese voices to dub English dialogue into a Japanese sci-fi film.
Oh, wow.
And he said, "You're a ham. Why don't you look into this?"
You're a ham.
My right hand again.
Don't worry about it. It's not getting anywhere near this. Everything's just fine.
And you got that job.
I got that job.
Yeah. Did you went back to Berkeley for a bit
I
more,
did.
didn't you? Yeah.
I went back to Berkeley to let it stew.
Yeah.
And the embers got hotter and hotter. And I came back the next summer, and I said, "Daddy, I like architecture very much, but I can't see myself 10 years down the road as an architect working in his office. I just can't see that, and my real passion." And my father said, I know, but you're in a feast or famine business.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And that's more famine than feast.
Indeed.
And so, I told him I wanted to go to New York and study at the Actors Studio, where all the great ones, Marlon Brando, Montgomery Clift, James Dean, were all coming from.
Yeah.
And the sidewalks are paved with gold.
That's Hollywood, right here in our town. Yeah. And I said, I want to go there and study and try my wings. And my father said, yes, I've heard of the Actors Studio. And even if you do well there and you finish, they won't give you that piece of parchment that your mother and I want you to have. So if you must study theater, let me tell you that right here in town, in Los Angeles, UCLA, there's a fine, respected acting school, or a theater school, he said. And when you finish there, they'll give you that diploma, which your mother and I want you to have.
Right. So that was the trade-off.
Well, he said, you go to New York, it's a crowded place.
Fearfully expensive.
It's an expensive place and a very competitive place.
Yeah.
And you have to be prepared to do it all on your own.
Yeah.
However, if you go to UCLA, we'll subsidize you.
Hello.
So you choose New York on your own or UCLA with subsidy. My father was a businessman.
And a negotiator.
And I'm his son. And I'm a practical kid. So I went with a subsidy. And as it turned out, my father's bargaining skill set the stage for me. Because I was seen in a student production by a casting director from Warner Brothers who was looking for an Asian actor for a major feature film starring Richard Burton, this legendary Shakespearean actor from England.
You're barely, you've done 3 classes. Incredible.
Richard Burton must have been a star at that point.
He was pretty starry.
Dazzling. I mean, I can see where, the Queen of Hollywood would follow
Elizabeth Taylor.
Charismatic, engaging, and very sharing.
Right.
And all my scenes, the other actor was Robert Ryan.
Yes.
But all my scenes were with Richard Burton.
Yeah. You showed up in Alaska, didn't you, in Anchorage?
That, it was based on Edna Ferber. She used to do these epic novels, like Centennial about Colorado or Texas Giant. And
Right.
this was about Alaska,
Right.
Ice Palace, and it was about the fish cannery in Alaska. And Richard Burton was playing an immigrant from England working the fish cannery, and I was a Chinese from China working in the same factory side by side.
Yeah.
And we become fast friends. And he later becomes entrepreneurial and starts making a lot of money. And since we were friends, he hires me as the major domo, which is another term for a servant.
Right.
But the chief servant in his house. And my big scenes were at the fish cannery there. Just the two of us and the crew, and on at the end of a pier, a fish cannery.
So you've done Rodan voiceover, and then pretty much went on to the Ice Palace opposite Richard Burton.
Richard Burton. And, you know, there's these moments between shots, and so we're sitting together, and I'm a college kid, full of questions and excited to be working with this icon from British theater. And here's Richard Burton, and there weren't too many people that would. Everybody's engaged in their busy work, and so we chatted, and I would ask him about the first time he did Hamlet, or what was it like working with Laurence Olivier, or on Broadway he did a play with Helen Hayes. And he would engage me with it. Yeah. And he's a great storyteller. Yeah. And so I would sit there riveted, and he, one-on-one, he would tell me about how he felt doing Hamlet for the first time. And the assistant would come and say, Mr. Burton, we're ready for you on the set. And says, hang on, I'll be right back. And so he would go on the set, and I would follow him and stand set side and watch him play that scene brilliantly. Wow! And he would come back and say, "Now, George, sit down," and he would regale me with all these stories.
And that Centaurian voice.
Oh, that Centaurian voice, and that was the voice. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we walked down the pier, and there'd be a car waiting to take him to the same hotel that we're headed to. Yeah. And it's right down the street.
It's 100 yards away, isn't it?
But Richard would say, "Oh, go away. I see the hotel right there. I'm walking with George."
Yeah.
Wow.
And we're walking back together, and we walk past the saloon, and the girls would come out. And Richard, how are
Trixie
you?
and Dixie.
Oh, Isabel.
They're in the
George, I'll see you later.
I will pick this up tomorrow.
Then you get cast quite quickly in a John Wayne movie, and you have to miss the best part of the second season.
This is Star Trek after it got started.
Yeah.
We did one season. And
you did
we'll go into
episode.
hiatus, and I got cast in John Wayne's Green Berets.
Yeah.
And I had to be honest when I was called in for the interview. John Wayne was a vigorous supporter of the Vietnam War, and I was involved in the peace movement by then. I was a member of an organization called Entertainment Industry for Peace and Justice, EIPJ, headed by Jane Fonda and others like Donald Sutherland. Yeah. And we were very actively engaged in recruiting people for the peace movement here in Hollywood. And so I told John Wayne, I've got to be honest with you, we are on polar opposite ends on the Vietnam War. I know that you're a very vigorous supporter of the war, and I support the peace movement equally. And so I thought you should know that. And he said, I respect you for being honest with me, and I also respect you as an actor. and I'm holding this interview for actors, not for political activists. And
Wow.
I was really impressed by that.
You
That
wrote a
kind
little
of-
number on a piece of paper and pushed it across the table. Oh, okay.
But yeah, I was impressed by his.
God bless.
What did you think of him?
He is a bigger than life individual. He's not an actor. He is a charismatic, strong, powerful personality, and his talent is the ability to bring that personality in front of the camera. You know, most actors change. I mean, we interpret the part,
And that's how
become
we
the
like to
part.
think of it, yeah.
Yeah. But he makes the character him who he is.
Yeah.
So in every movie, whether he's playing an American Green Beret general or a Kublai Khan.
Sean Connery did the same, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
It's the same guy.
Russian submarine. Yeah,
Right.
still Sean.
Did you see Genghis Khan?
Yes.
Yeah, oh Lord, yeah.
There's John Wayne with his Fu Manchu mustache. He sees Susan Hayward. Is that her name?
Yeah, and opposite him, I forget now, to be honest. Yeah.
Lying on this couch.
All right.
And this yellow-skinned Fu Manchu man comes into the tent with that unique walk of his.
I ain't gonna hit you. I ain't gonna hit you. Ah, the hell I ain't.
He says, my blood tells me this woman is for me.
God, you went through some. I mean, God, you had to sit opposite Alec Guinness, pretending to be a Japanese gentleman too, rather badly. You went through an era of just like, what the fuck? I mean, and swallowed it.
And it wasn't just the makeup; it was the attitude. And I was a Alec Guinness fan, because of all the British comedies that he did.
Lovely actor, you know.
I reported to the set in my costume, and everybody else was there. And Mr. Guinness was supposed to be in the makeup, so we all sat around waiting. And then he was ushered in, and he went straight into his trailer. And so I didn't see him go in. I just saw a covey of people.
You were thinking that you were going to get the same sort of Richard Burton experience, didn't you?
They're both British.
Yeah, that's about it.
And I thought he was going to be
Actually, Richard would kill you for that. He's a Welshman, you know.
Oh, I learned.
He told you, didn't he?
He told me that English was his second language.
And he did. He grew up speaking Welsh.
And his name wasn't Burton.
No.
It was Jenkins.
Jenkins, yeah. That's right.
His father was a coal
Richard
miner.
William Jenkins, I think is
something like that.
His father was coal miner. From Pontefraid or somewhere.
Yes. Oh, he said it. I can't remember. Yeah,
he recited Under Milk Wood by Dylan Thomas in the Welsh to you, didn't he?
In Welsh.
How about that?
Really?
I didn't understand it, but there he was with his golden voice,
right,
in this musical language.
Yeah.
I mean, when Richard Burton recites it, it's musical.
Yeah.
He knows where to breathe.
Stunning.
Although I didn't know the language, it was the whole experience with Richard Burton was
Stunning,
so rich and so unforgettable. I still
this one was hollow, cold, and
he was distant and cold. And this friend of mine was supposed to be his accent coach.
That's right.
Because he was playing a wealthy Japanese businessman who falls in love with a Brooklyn Jewish housewife played by Rosalind Russell.
Oh my God!
And I Bob Okazaki was his name, and I was chatting with him, and I said,
"What happened?
How come you're here? Why aren't you there in his trailer working on him?" He said, "He sends me away." He said he's prepared. He's got the accent that he's going to use. And I was curious to see what he's going to sound like. And I really didn't see him completely when he rushed into his trailer. And so I saw him for the first time on the set. And cold chills went down through my body. His eyes look reptilian. You know how reptiles' eyes are lifeless.
They glued them back, haven't they? And
But except for the eyeballs moving.
Yeah.
The face doesn't move. No expression. And the eyes look threatening. And then he started to talk. Well, that was with his British accent. But as the scene was rehearsing, he had this strange accent. And I sidled over to Bob Okazaki and I said, what accent is he doing? He says, it's his accent.
it's nothing I've taught him.
Right.
It was just slurry British accent.
You've,
It wasn't.
I mean, God knows you've endured, some tough stuff as an actor to have to watch that and get cast in sort of, those two-dimensional, Asian roles. I know you had huge regrets about doing those Jerry Lewis movies in the end, and
I had to be honest and write about it in my book, but
Yeah.
I still regret writing about it.
do you?
Yeah, and my agent was a Japanese American
Yeah,
at that
Fred.
time.
He persuaded you to do them, didn't he?
He said, Jerry Lewis is enormous box office, massive box office, and it helps an actor to be involved in a production that makes that kind of huge box office.
Right.
And I said, well, it really, and she said, George, please, do you want me to get down on my knees? And I said, no, don't, I'll do it. I'll do
okay.
it."
Just this once.
naughty.
Oh my God.
Don't read into it. It's just subjugation of an agent. God, people.
Good heavens.
Did you say Asians?
Let's get back. It must have been an absolute, what a refreshment to suddenly go up for this thing called Star Trek and be cast as Sulu and play, a real person as a Japanese American.
No, not Japanese American.
As a citizen of the world that happened to be.
No, he said what he's doing with Star Trek. Here's all this drama going on in the 60s, great turbulence, and nothing of that is being reflected on television.
Right.
It's all cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians, and brainless comedy and quiz shows.
Yeah.
He said,
I mean, like it is today.
we haven't, but the message of Star Trek is still relevant today.
Right.
Yes.
What he wanted to do with Star Trek was to throw us up 3 centuries ahead, 23rd century. This was in the 20th century that we were doing this. 23rd century, and metaphorically talk about this generation in the 20th century. And he said the strength of this generation is in its diversity, coming together and working in concert, each contributing his or her unique experience, background, talent, working together so that with all that, you can deal with that common challenge that we have and develop a solution to the problems that we face. Infinite diversity and infinite combinations.
That's the comment, the encapsulation I love, yeah.
And the starship is a metaphor for Starship Earth.
Right.
And I was just enthralled by that.
I bet. You wanted this
visionaries.
job, didn't you?
Oh, desperately.
Yeah.
Because he went on to describe the character. He said,
Pardon me.
the captain of the starship is a North American, but not an American. He's cast a Canadian in the captain's seat. Europe is represented by a Scotsman because the Scots are famous for being great mariners and also shipbuilders. And he's cast Jimmy Doohan.
Right.
The ship's doctor is DeForest Kelly, who has a slight southern accent.
Wasn't there another doctor first too, though?
Yes.
Yes, there was. So Lloyd and whoever that was got recast.
I forget his name, but
he liked DeForest, I guess. They just recast him, didn't they?
DeForest is a new guy being added, but
he was old school Hollywood at that point. He was a contract player.
I
wasn't he?
love walking over to the commissary with him because he shared with me. He was the last of the contract actors, and he would tell me the history of Paramount Studios.
Fantastic.
By this time, Desilu was
incorporated into it. That's right.
Gulf and Western.
Right.
In Gulf.
Bought the whole thing,
The whole studio.
Yeah.
And became one studio. And so we walked through from the we were still shooting in the old.
That was it. You know where our sets were, 18 and 8 and 9, and then if you walked over to where the makeup was, where Mike Westmore lived upstairs, that was old Desilu. That gate on Gower was Desilu, and there was a wall, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
And they tore that wall down, like the Berlin Wall.
Right.
The wall came down.
The wall came down.
And we were delighted because the commissary on the Desilu side was a pit.
Nothing but tacos and burritos.
Even the floor, the linoleum was torn and curling. So you had to watch your step so they wouldn't
And the Paramount
trip.
one was world famous at that point.
No, what was it? Café de Paris? Is that what it was called? It was
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous. And the founder of Paramount was still alive. He was in his late 90s. And he came in every day and went to the secluded room off to the corner.
I'm trying to think who that was now, because we had Sumner Redstone, and he was in his late 90s by the time we got in there. So
before Star Trek, he was living long and prospering.
Right.
Yeah.
He was famous. Why did I reached
Adolf Zucker?
Zucker.
Adolf Zucker.
Adolf Zucker, that's right.
Adolf Zucker. And so that was the commissary that we were delighted to have access to because of.
And there must have been faces in there, man.
And walking with Dee, he would point out all the history.
Man.
Isn't that great?
Walking history book. It's so much better than reading a old yellowing book,
Right.
Because he experienced it.
Right.
And that's the writer's building. And I said, I remember that from Sunset Boulevard. Because it was a Paramount film, and so they shot at the actual.
Our trailers were right underneath that balcony, where he meets
Esther
the
Williams
girl.
films were shot on
18.
On 18.
There's a pool under there.
That was storage by the time we got there. It was amazing.
There's a vast Hollywood history on
There is.
that block.
Yeah.
And, from that time when Gloria Swanson drove in, that gate now is way inside the studio. They bought land all the way to Melrose. And so the studio walls go all the way to Melrose.
Right.
And I remember we marched in front of that just a few months ago.
Right.
On
Star Trek Day. God bless me.
Yeah.
That was the most convenient studio for me to strike.
Same here. Just a few blocks away.
Exactly.
That's not the right spirit, George.
I never went to Disney. I was in the Valley.
Yeah.
I went to the oldest extant Hollywood studio.
I was at the Outpost
Is it the
in Santa
oldest?
Clarita.
Is it the oldest?
It is.
Older than Warner?
Warner moved out to Burbank.
Yeah.
Oh, they had been somewhere else.
Yeah,
On Sunset Boulevard.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
Yes, in Hollywood. Right beside the Hollywood Freeway.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
They got cheap land
That's
out in
why
the
Hollywood
valley.
is called Hollywood, because Hollywood was there.
Right.
And it started going, and Columbia was right north of Paramount, and that joined
Sony?
Raleigh?
Raleigh.
Raleigh Studios, yeah.
And that used to be called Republic Studios.
Republic Studios.
Gene Autry films. Were
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Oh, I know. Old. My father on the Sunday drives used to drive me by there, and I was. He didn't intend to, but driving down Melrose, I said, "Daddy, stop the car!
Right.
I want to look through the Gloria Swanson gate."
Right, exactly.
Was that when he knew you were gay?
I think he knew.
Do you think he knew?
I never came out to him.
No, you never did.
I never did. But he never raised it.
No.
I was.
And it wasn't the time,
well
really, was
into
it? No.
He passed in '79 at 76 years old.
Did your mum survive him?
She did.
She did, right.
She lived to 89,
Yes.
just a few months from her 90th birthday. They went through an awful lot. And the stress of imprisonment
Yeah, no kidding.
Rebuilding our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't end with the end of the war.
No.
I mean, we came back to a hostile Los Angeles.
Right.
I said my favorite teacher was my first teacher at the Murchison Street School, Mrs. Lewis. But my next teacher, Mrs. Rugen, and I'll never forget her name. And I was saying her name right here in front of that camera.
Oh, she was a cow, wasn't she?
She kept using the word the Jap boy to refer to me.
Good heavens.
Yeah.
And that stung.
Oh, yeah.
Awful.
I mean, what had I done to that lady? And near the beginning of the semester there, I used to raise my hand, but she would, on cue, when I raised my hand, she would look the other way and call somebody else. She never called on me. And so I stopped raising my hand. And I hated that fat woman. I'm not using that.
Say it loud.
Fat witch.
Yeah, good for
She
you.
was plump and always
nasty.
sour looking. But then, as an adult, I look back because she hated me so, and I hated her right back. And I glared at her each time she
That was
passed
just
me.
bigotry, and you could have been anyone
But I thought,
different.
this is after the war. And maybe she had a son or a husband in the Pacific Theater.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the thoughts that go through
God.
after you're in prison like that.
Yeah.
And is that why she hated me? But I'm just a kid. I had nothing to do with her family being affected, if they were.
Did you ever think about asking her, or
I hated her.
you didn't want to ask?
I wasn't going to speak
You
to
were
her.
going to talk.
You're a child too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a kid.
You were a
She's
little
her
kid.
student.
Yeah, she's got the upper hand in all respects.
Yeah.
and-
That's awful.
But I'm getting even with Mrs. Rugen.
Yes, you are.
I put her name in my autobiography. In my college lectures, I mentioned Mrs. Rugen. I'm just hoping her
Offspring.
great-grandchildren aren't in my audience.
Or like her.
Or no, I don't think people are like that.
Yes.
She was just a bitter, sour, ugly, fat old lady.
How reticent were you about leaving Star Trek in that second season to go off and do Green Berets? Because I know that's when they ushered in Walter, and that was definitely like, what the hell?
Well, the thing is, I told Gene that I got this wonderful opportunity to do a feature film with John Wayne, and but the contract says I'll be back in time for the beginning of the second season. So I just wanted to have you know that.
Right.
And he said, "Well, let me give you a bon voyage gift."
Yeah.
And he gave me a half a dozen scripts. I've been lobbying for more for Sulu to do.
Yeah, you didn't hang around, did you? You've always been, I have to say, when I read your book, I always saw, this guy was, much like Leonard, very much the master of his own career, if you will.
Well, Leonard was my inspiration.
Right.
But he had a fascinating character. and he was creating his character, the uniqueness, like the Spock pinch.
Yeah.
He introduced that on the set, not the writers.
Did he do this?
Yeah.
And the Vulcan greeting.
That was the rabbi.
It's a Jewish
temple,
yeah.
It's a blessing.
He was being creative with his character because he had an interesting character.
Yeah.
There wasn't much to describe Sulu. And so I had to try to advocate for making the character richer. And saying having a family, having parents, or having a passion.
All right.
Fencing was what I suggested, and the script had.
When John Black came to you and said,
how are you with a samurai
sword?
And I said, well, that's racially authentic because I'm of Japanese ancestry, but I didn't go around playing samurai in my backyard.
Right.
And I said, after
you didn't? What? You didn't, he said.
No, he was a listener.
Yeah.
And I said, I have a suggestion to make. I did play Robin Hood in my backyard.
Right.
I saw Earl Flynn in The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Right.
And I had my mother make me a Robin Hood outfit.
Yeah.
And so I was already into
a rapier
cosplay.
You weren't Maid Marian. I'm going to get you eventually.
No, Robin Hood was a much more charismatic character.
That's brilliant.
And my backyard became Sherwood Forest.
Yeah.
And Martha Gonzalez became Maid Marian.
Oh, sweet.
Who was Basil Rathbone?
I can't remember him.
But you had a bunch of merry men, didn't you, that were all the neighborhood kids?
Yeah.
And,
Maybe Lata was.
And oddly enough, funny you should mention Basil Rathbone, because after he told him that, I can sword fight, which, every actor says.
You'd never ask.
Right. I can do it one leg on a horse, honey. And you've never actually picked up a sword in your life, had you, particularly?
In my backyard.
Oh, right, as a kid.
Yes.
There you go. But then you found...
So I lied.
You found Basil Rathbone's sword?
Yes, no. I had what's called a yellow book back in... You kids would not know.
No. It was our
Great
Google.
big, thick yellow page.
The yellow pages.
Yellow pages.
Yeah.
Great big, thick book that listed all the businesses. And I was looking up fencing lessons, and they had one on Sunset Boulevard, not too far.
Yeah.
How convenient. So it was Falcon Studios.
Yeah.
And I took my first formal fencing lesson, I think it was about 3 weeks before we shot that film. And my fencing instructor was Mr. Faulkner.
Robert Faulkner, wasn't it? Yeah.
And he was the choreographer of the fencing sequences in The Adventures of Robin Hood. And he doubled for Basil Rathbone.
He did.
Yeah.
But he said particularly in Flynn's close-ups, because Flynn was fearful of Rathbone because he was so uncontrolled.
Right. Not the face. Not the face.
We both went there quick. It's instinctive.
So I was working out. He was my fencing instructor. My first and only fencing instructor was someone whose back I had watched when absolutely transported by the movie The Adventures of Robin Hood. So it was an adventure for me doing Star Trek, going back into
You got to
my
love
history.
this business for that alone. The
For that alone.
The people we get to meet. And
So when we all had to take stage combat, and we did fencing, we did all of them, the claymores, the rapier and dagger, and all the weapons.
chased by a bear.
But
That's gonna need
in
work.
purchasing my rapier, I bought a Basil Rathbone
No kidding.
replica.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You're wonderful. You believed.
So we have that in common.
Yes.
real quick, guys, I don't want to interrupt this. I could frankly stand here all day as long as you guys are willing to keep talking. We do have
enough.
I mean,
we have enough.
We have to get to our virtual signatures.
Why don't you have George finish the story about at the end of the first season, Gene Roddenberry gave you a stack of scripts, and then you went on set to do the John Wayne movie. What happened when you met Walter Koenig?
Oh, great.
Yeah.
And then from then we can move to After Trek.
Well,
we'll do virtual signatures.
I told Gene that I'll be gone for the duration of the hiatus, but I'll be back in time to begin the second season.
But filming.
But Gene said, well, let me give you a bon voyage gift. And he gave me about a half a dozen scripts. And I had been advocating for something more dimension for Sulu to do. And there they were. All the second season scripts, not all, but about half a dozen scripts in which Sulu had something more interesting to do. And I was delighted. And I had it memorized. We filmed Green Berets in Georgia at Fort Benning. And so in between shots or in the evenings, I memorized my lines.
Right.
But we had an unpredicted rainstorm hit.
Poured with rain, didn't it?
And we started filming, and the rain wouldn't go away, so they stopped filming, and we thought we'd wait it out. But the rains continued. So we changed it for a rain scene, and we shot the same scene over again in the rain and kept on filming. And of course, wouldn't you know,
Stop raining.
Good weather. Balmy sunshine.
Of course.
And so they had to muddy the ground. And
fake rain? Had to bring fake rain in at this point?
Fake rain.
Unbelievable.
And we had to subject ourselves to being doused with bucket water before we go before the camera so that we'd be drenched.
Right.
And so we got really delayed. And
weeks, was it weeks?
Weeks on end. And we couldn't make it back in time, so I had to write Gene and tell him, I'm sorry, I can't make it back.
God, that must be, that's tough, isn't it?
It was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Trouble with Dribbles.
Yes, some of the good ones. Yeah.
Michael Forrest was a guest actor in that one. What was it called?
Who mourns for Adonai?
Who mourns for Adonai? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And all those wonderful scripts had been filmed by the time I got back.
So, and they quickly went and cast, another actor, as it were, to sit at the front of the ship.
Yes.
And it was Walter.
They brought in another actor to play those scenes.
I love the way, another actor.
You have an actor sensitivity. You know how to pick up on the nuances.
Well, we'll see about that.
Yes, Walter Koenig was cast, and I was raging because of I can't blame anybody. That was Mother Nature. But here was this thief that came and stole the lines that were written for me.
In a bad way.
I was raging.
You better cut that bit out.
It was a great wig.
Came back, and Greg Peters was the assistant director. He said that doghouse is your dressing room.
Yes, and
they had these wooden huts outside, and I went in, and there were 2 pairs of shoes and 2 sets of costumes in the closet. And I said, Greg, why do I have 2 costumes for this shot coming up? And he says, I forgot to tell you. We're kind of short of dressing rooms, and we're having you double up. And with who? the new guy. It was Walter Koenig. I mean, that was insult upon bleeding injury.
But you guys, you formed a pretty solid friendship quite quickly.
It
didn't
did,
you? And,
because I got dressed and I was fuming, and then I heard somebody's sound outside, and it turned out to be the new guy, Walter, and he had a frown on his face, and he came in saying, "I hate this."
He wasn't happy with all this either.
What?
He wasn't happy with all this either. You know, the doubling up.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I said, "You're not happy with this? How do you think I feel?"
Yeah.
And
I was here first.
I was gonna say, you stole my lines. They were already filmed, and he said, "I feel ridiculous in this." He was complaining about the
bird's
wig.
nest.
The wig.
Because there was a hit show called the
Monkeys?
Oh, the Monkeys, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Davy Jones.
And Davy Jones
Yeah.
was the hit of that group.
Right.
And he had this Prince Valiant.
Right.
So this new guy was going to have, was supposed to be teenage bait.
Right.
And so they put a wig on him. And I agreed with him. He looked ridiculous. He kept calling it a mop on my head, or like some animal perch
Bird's nest.
on his head. And he looked pathetic. And I felt sorry for him. So
He wore it well. He wore it well and acted through it. God bless.
Yes.
It takes some.
And so what made it possible was my feeling for his
right.
pathetic misery. And
how friendships develop.
Yeah, you want to hear him get started on Bill.
and I discovered that he was dating one of my classmates from UCLA,
Oh.
Judy Levitt.
Oh, who just passed away, God bless.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Very sad. But then they were married for 60 years.
Walter's had a lot of tragedy in his life.
Yeah.
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 Okay. He's a lovely man.
And
Yeah.
the first tragedy was having to put that wig on.
Oh, you set me up.
God.
Nicely done.
That's the pro.
So, I mean, in your Star Trek sojourn, I know you fought hard to get Sulu, elbowed out and bigger stuff, and then the movies come, and you're really, lobbying for something here, and you want him to be promoted, and they sort of they dance around it with you, don't they?
Yeah, because they kept giving us advances in rank.
Yeah.
I was a lieutenant, and I became a lieutenant commander, and then I became something else of a higher rank. But there I was, still at the same damn console, saying, "Aye, aye, sir, warp 3.
Right.
I said, it doesn't make sense. Starfleet is supposed to be a meritocracy, and we're recognized for our talent and our discipline, our contribution to the fine workings of the ship, and it doesn't reflected by it isn't reflected by the duties that we have." And so I kept saying there should be an advance in our duties as well. And Sulu was known as #1 from graduate from Starfleet Academy, and he was the best helmsman in Starfleet. I said he's on the road to becoming a captain, and I was sharing this with the writing staff and with other people. And when we started doing the films, Harv Bennett came on as the producer, and I
you had a few conversations with him.
With him,
you?
but he said, "Well, come to my office and share those ideas with us." And he said us, I thought in the royal sense, but he had Nick Meyer
right?
there.
Yeah.
And he was the writer of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Right.
And so I made the same presentation about our title advances should be reflected in the bigger and more weighty responsibilities that we have. And Nick was there listening to that. And when the script came, there was a scene where Captain Kirk announces in that scene that I have an advance in rank. I'm getting a captaincy of my own ship. And I was really excited by that. The time came for the filming of that scene. We rehearsed it, and the captain's just walking through it. And I thought, it's not working. I mean, it's not
didn't even
that
make eye
difficult
contact
to
with
see.
you, did he?
What?
He didn't even make eye contact with you.
No eye contact. So I went.
He was just scrubbing the scene.
And Nick was directing that, so I went to him and I whispered, I'm not getting anything, and this is an important scene for me, and I'd like to think the captain is a little bit proud of his helmsman getting his, but there's nothing of that. And Nick knew what was going on. He said, "I'll fix it in the edit. We'll move on," because time was elapsing.
Right.
We did it. We rehearsed it a couple of times, more than a couple of times, and so I counted on him to fix it in the edit, but it didn't work.
Right.
And that scene was cut. And in my last film, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, which was written and directed by
Nick Myers.
Nick Meyer, yeah.
Nick Meyer.
Is it Myers or Meyer?
Meyer,
yeah.
How does the show begin?
With Captain
Kirk,
Sulu, yeah.
confidently sipping his
Yes,
glass of,
yeah.
or cup of green tea. What's the climax of it?
Yeah.
When the Klingons are about to send Enterprise and Captain Kirk into the darkened cinders of the galaxy.
Along comes the cavalry.
And out of that darkened universe comes Captain Sulu.
Yeah.
And blasts the Klingon to smithereens, thus saving the day and the Enterprise and Captain Kirk. And how does it end? Beginning, middle, and end? The classic ending of all Star Trek movies, the bridge set. And the captain's seated there, and he looks at the giant view screen and that enormous image of Captain Sulu, and he looks up and he gets up and says, essentially, "Thank you, Captain Sulu, for saving my ass." And
did he read the lines for you on the other side?
Captain Sulu looks down and says, "Good to see you in action one more time."
Yeah.
And he roars off.
Yeah.
And then
oh my God, that's a big ship, is what Scotty says.
That's right.
Yeah. Not so big as
McCoy,
a
that's
captain,
McCoy's
I think.
line.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
By God, that's a big ship. But Scotty chimes in with a twinkle in his eyes. Aye, but not so big as her captain, I think. That's a Captain Sulu movie. Beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah. Debt you have to pay to be Captain Sulu and come to the rescue and then shoot off is that final shot of the cast on the bridge of the Enterprise that is basically your final shot, isn't it? I mean, you do go back and do a bit in the Generations movie, but that's the final look at you all.
It was
30 years on, and you're
Voyager,
not there.
Voyager.
Yeah. It's
I did a guest shot on Voyager.
You did. Were you not in Generations?
No, that was Walter and
Oh,
James.
was that? Sorry, I mistook.
I gotta
But
say,
yeah.
as a boy in Minnesota, I was so excited when Sulu got to be the captain of the Excelsior. Ever since Star Trek 3, I was waiting for the Excelsior to go to Sulu.
I was at the Grauman's Chinese Theater. I sneaked in when it opened there, and the movie begins, and there's a cheer going up. Wow. It was such a satisfying sound.
Speaking of
the
which,
shot of Captain Sulu drinking his cup
that's
of
brilliant.
tea.
And you lobbied hard. I mean, there were some negotiations, and Harve Bennett did not want to budge. And I know your new agent, was it Steve Stevens was his name? Wasn't it? Yeah, he was a clever man, wasn't he? And he went, get them where the money is. And that's where you'll get their chink in the armor. And you held out, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I remember being all excited. As a kid, I heard that you were going to be on QVC. You were going to sell some Star Trek stuff on QVC, and I cleared my schedule and found a television so I could watch you on QVC.
Oh, brilliant.
And you talked about the idea of
handbags,
an Excelsior show, and perhaps a young ensign Picard, and I was taken by it. The whole thing. I've been looking forward to this for so long.
Was an open door for that, wasn't it? Yeah. And the fans picked up on it, and they began. They're famous and ever persuasive letter writing campaign.
Yes,
and they flooded both Paramount,
BJ Trimble, and her husband
Bijo,
John.
yes.
Yeah, Bijo. Yeah, well, amazing. I mean, we owe them a debt of gratitude.
We do indeed.
That show might have just gone away, frankly, and we might never be here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
because
kidding.
it was
No
their advocacy,
Thank
their
you, guys.
campaign.
Yeah. Yeah, someone put
You
them
guys
on.
would have never been born.
No.
No. Bringing it up to the present day, as we just have, I know you've got another... God, you're such an author, man. Your book, your memoir, was so beautifully written, George. I got to really commend you for that.
Thank you.
I heard your voice on every page. You've got another book coming out, a children's book, My Lost Freedom, a Japanese-American World War II story. Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, I've been telling this story to various different audiences. I've been going on a lecture tour with all the various universities in this country. Just 3 weeks ago, I was in Kansas speaking to Kansas State University, and then a speakers program that they have throughout the year in Salina, Kansas. Mm-hmm. And so it's been my mission in life to talk about the fragility of our democracy and to send a message that we Americans have to take on a citizen's responsibility to make our ideals have life rather than just leaving it to somebody else, which so many people apparently are not capable of.
There's a complacency out there, isn't there?
There's this madman that still claims that he won an election that he lost. And there are all these people that are acolytes.
Yeah.
They can't be
They're
persuaded.
complicit. I mean, they're elected officials who are complicit in this nonsense. I know.
Our democracy is a people's democracy. It's not one mad person's. That's an authoritarian form of government.
Yeah.
And so my mission is to have Americans understand how precious it is, but it's also Americans' responsibility to keep it as a vibrant, living form of government, people's government. And so I'm on this mission to tell the story of when a group of Americans, a small group of Americans, lost their freedom and their dignity, and many people, their sanity. Many people went crazy.
I don't doubt it.
There were suicides, but also an amazing part of the story is young Japanese Americans went from behind barbed wire imprisonment because they were sick and tired of being in prison. They were willing to show what kind of people we are, and fought for this government in a segregated, all Japanese American unit, sent to the battlefields of Europe, and used literally like cannon fodder, sent out onto the stalemated battles, one stalemate after another, wave after wave after wave of the members of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team were sent out, gunned down. The next wave would go, and they fought heroically, and they would be gunned down.
Battle of the Bulge, particularly, was that? Am I right in thinking that? Was it the Battle of the Bulge that they fought heroically at?
Well, they became famous for the battle to save the Texas Lost Battalion in the Black Forest.
Black Forest, right.
of France.
Yeah.
Or no, that's Germany.
It's on the border of Germany.
It's before they got
Belgium,
to Germany.
Yeah.
This Texas unit went out, and they were cut off by the Nazis, and they made many attempts to rescue them. About 220 Texans, and they called in the 442nd after they had won victories in two other French battles, and they were sent out. The Vosges Forest is a hillside, and the Germans were ensconced at the top of the hills, and wave after wave after wave of Japanese Americans who came from behind barbed wire imprisonment, leaving their families.
Was it basically a suicide mission? This is why they were chosen to do it?
It was, they were cannon fodder.
Lord.
And they broke through after an astounding loss of life, and to save 200 Texans. Over 800 members of the 442nd sustained combat casualties, and the Texans are back, and it's going to be in the World War II Museum in New Orleans. The story of the 442nd.
I've been to that museum.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's a remarkable museum. We've been there. haven't we? And then the most highly decorated regiment in all of American military history.
They came back as the most decorated unit of the entire Second World War.
Yeah.
And they were welcomed back on the White House lawn by President Harry Truman, who said to them, President Roosevelt was passed by then, and he said to them, "You fought not only the enemy, but prejudice, and you won."
God bless.
One of them became a senator of the United States representing Hawaii, Dan Inoue. We had fundraisers for him at our home. He became a good friend of ours, and he came to our wedding, Brad and ours. We got married at the Japanese American National Museum.
That's right.
And we had a senator of the United States, one of the longest serving senators, 48 years, and the chair of the Appropriations Committee, very, very important committee, as our guest at our wedding at the Japanese American National Museum, that tells the story of the Japanese American experience from immigrant days to today.
You and Brad were the first same-sex couple to get married in the city of West Hollywood, correct?
Get our license.
Get your license, yeah. That's
Brad is a planner.
Yeah.
I've learned this.
He's fastidious. And it wasn't until September. We got our marriage license in May, I think. But he took all those months to plan. And we had, as our wedding party, we asked Walter Koenig.
Yes, he was your best man.
As our best man. Yeah. And we asked Michelle to be our matron of honor.
Yeah.
But Michelle said, "I am not a matron."
I can hear that.
You can hear, can't you? Yeah. If Walter can be the best man, why can't I be the best lady?
Oh, lovely.
It's not the equal of a best man. Best man and the female equivalent is best woman.
Mm-hmm.
She gave herself a little one notch.
She's
a lady.
She learned from the master. That's beautiful.
Best lady. And so we had Walter as our best man, Nichelle as our matron of a best lady.
Yeah.
And as our, we're Buddhists, and as our officiant,
I didn't know that.
we had a Mexican-American Buddhist minister,
Right.
William Briones, Reverend Briones, and who else did we have at our wedding?
Not Bill.
Jeez.
I'm just guessing. Because when I was at the Chinese the other day, I made sure I've got a photo, and we'll put it up when your episode comes out. I'm there with George Takei in the hands.
Incidentally,
Yeah, God bless.
that too was initiated by a native Angelino. The entire cast of Star Trek are non-Angelinos. Bill is a Canadian.
Yes. Walter's from New York.
Leonard is a Bostonian.
He's a Bostonian. All right.
Walter is a New Yorker.
Yeah.
And
Where's Michelle from?
Michelle is from Chicago.
Oh, was she?
And she's probably the most American of us all because she is she is part white and part
She got some native?
Choctaw.
Choctaw, say Choctaw, yeah.
He thought
Native
he was Choctaw.
American.
No, I thought I was Choctaw. No, I am Choctaw.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I am Choctaw. Yeah.
You are Choctaw.
Yeah.
He's got a bit.
So you're the most American one of us here.
Thank you
It's
very
mostly
much.
white, but there is a...
Funny, he doesn't look
I did
Indian.
23andMe, and apparently there's not very much in that for me.
We dined out on the Choctaw for a long time.
We were told before we did that signing ceremony in the courtyard of I still call it the Grauman's Chinese, because when we came back from the camps,
Yes,
it was Grauman's Chinese Theater.
Right.
And for me, it will
It'll never
always
always
remain.
be, yeah.
But we were told before, we all gathered in the theater way before the ceremony, and we were told that because the space is limited, we write only our names. And be mindful of leaving space for others, because we have some people whose egos
names are bigger.
it will take the whole square, and so we had that pounded into us. And so when my turn came to put down my name, I wrote it down, and then I thought, I'm the only native Angelino. I have my Los Angeles tradition, my heritage of my town, and it's not just the autograph. And so I put the stick down and I sunk my hands deeply into
Watch
that
this.
place.
Handstand.
And behind me I heard Bill's voice saying, George put his hand in. I want to put my hand in too. And he came running down and went splat.
Oh my God.
And the others,
That's very good.
I had to educate
It's a good story.
my fellow colleagues
Good man.
how it's done
On the way to do
In
it.
LA.
in Hollywood.
Nice.
Well, that's
What year
amazing.
did
You
you-
have your autograph and your hands in the cement at the Graumans.
Oh, speaking of autographs, yes.
You've got at the end of Star Trek 6 we were talking about earlier, the greatest Star Trek movie ever made, one of the greatest movies ever made of all time. All of you sign your autographs to end that era of
Wasn't
that
it
great
a
franchise.
wonderful way to sign off?
I'm getting tears thinking about it. Like every time I watch that movie, I have to stop before the end because those autographs make me cry.
And so many fans felt the same way as you did.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that whoever came up with that idea,
Oh, brilliant.
it might have been Nick Meyer.
So meaningful.
So
Hopefully to you
and
all as well.
we do Star Trek conventions, and I wouldn't know you guys if it weren't for the Star Trek
George,
conventions.
you're absolutely-
We
that's how we
connected
met
there.
after all these years.
And the conventions are wonderful ways of bringing the generations
It's a
together,
family.
the fans as well as
Indeed.
the people that made the future
Yes.
of our Star Trek. And so the autograph is what they prize, and this fanfare program.
Oh,
is-
yes.
is
that you're
Fanfare
getting involved with.
signatures.
This is
Yeah.
Owen Delancey's project, isn't
exactly
it? John's son.
John Delancey's son.
I'm sorry, one second. Fanfaresignatures.com.
Fanfaresignatures.com.
So tell us a bit about that. It's a virtual signature.
It's a virtual signature, and it comes with an art piece.
That's right.
Owen Delancey is a gifted artist, so he draws pictures of us in various Star Trek context, in costume or maybe out of costume or half out of costume.
Is there one of you in a French maid's costume? How much is that one?
I don't set the price. Owen does.
For that one, I would.
And it comes with our virtual
Very good.
autographs, so that it's very special.
Is it up and running now, and fans can run to fanfare.com and
It's going to be.
yeah. No, there it is.
Is
that
it? Is it up and about?
It's fanfaresignatures.com is live.
Fanfaresignatures.com. Okay.
Fanfaresignatures.com. I'm just
And
searching
when does
for-
it become?
It's like the Facebook. I would have just called it fanfare.com, but never mind. I notice it's rather affordable too.
Brad, do you
I don't think $39 is
How much am I?
Yeah, I think I saw $39 for something there.
Oh,
There's a
right.
range.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a range.
So we're good. Let's take this opportunity to move on to some fan questions.
Okay, great.
Erica?
Are you ready for some fan questions?
Oh, you're the one that.
I'm going to ask them.
Things are looking up, George.
Rose and Dust from Patreon asks you, what would you want your legacy to be?
What my legacy to be?
What would you want your legacy to be?
You know, I don't believe in these profound sounding things, but I do feel that I've tried to live by the saying, live long and prosper. And I've tried to live a healthy life and a truthful life. And I feel I am enriched by the life I've lived. And so I have prospered.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Amazing answer. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
The next question is from Mark Luttrell from Blue Sky.
We now
Where
have
is
a
that?
Blue Sky account.
We now
which
have a
is-
Blue Sky account. Cool. What gives you hope?
What gives me hope? You know, I live life optimistically because that optimism is what gets things done. And I have hope in the goodness of people so that we can continue to move forward. I know that part of life that we live is not that there are wars going on, there are invasions by autocrats, there are people that have access to weapons that they should not have. So that we have a lot of problems. But I believe deeply in the idea that we are making progress.
Sean O'Sullivan from Facebook asks, what's an important change you've witnessed in your lifetime? And do you feel the world is becoming a better place?
I've experienced many changes, dramatic changes. I grew up imprisoned unjustly in American prison camps. My parents' strength and their optimism and their integrity and their own principles helped me survive that. And they, by their example, have become my guides through life. And yes, there are terrible things happening in this world. I mean, our daily headlines, but there are positive daily headlines come true as well. And so I live in the infinite diversity of good and bad and neutral in this world, and we move on. I look forward to, we're making incredible progress in our knowledge. 3 weeks ago, I had an operation cutting into my eyes, and in another 2 weeks, I'm going to have this one operated on. Amazing things, as well as going way up there. There's a man, a genius with many, many devils in him, plans to fly to Mars. And he thinks he's going to be buried in Mars. And I'm sure he will be, because he's an amazing genius, and the human body will not have enough time then to make it back to this Earth.
Yeah.
And so good for him to be realistic enough to look forward to being buried in Mars. That's the kind of fantastical world that we live in. And I hope that these advances that are being made will, the positive advances that are being made will be greater than the negative advances also that are being made. And I am mindful of that aspect of the changes that we're bringing about.
You talked about optimism, and that's a really optimistic way to look at all of this, because there is negativity in it, but I think if you are optimistic and realistic, the positive overweighs that. Thank you.
We have are you familiar with this? Do you recognize this?
Oh, there it is.
Brad took the reading glasses out of my pocket.
This is one of our biggest supporters. What is she? It's Ryle.
Riley.
Riley.
Yeah.
She's a big fan of yours, a big fan of our show. She has this T-shirt. It was a gift from her mother.
What does it say?
Fun run with George Takei.
Oh, it was you did a fun run.
TCon 3 5K fun run.
Oh.
Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yes.
It's a not especially flattering picture of you. But it's there.
Brad and I are runners, and I wanted to do a marathon, and Brad told me that he's done a marathon. So I had him train me for my very first LA marathon.
How long ago was that?
What was our first marathon, Brad?
I think 1986.
Wow.
1986. And so he put me on a regimen starting from 5 a.m. in the morning. I had to be up by 4 in order to make that 5 a.m. run. And it's a jigsaw. 3 miles one day, and then 1 mile the next day, 6 miles the next day,
Right.
and 5 miles the next day.
Wow.
So it's
Right.
this jigsaw going up. And then
Over what kind of period of time do you
3 months.
Right.
But starting from a week before the marathon, it goes down severely.
Right. Until you run 26.
It's 26.2.
Yes, it is. You know why it's 0.2? Do you have any idea? Do you know?
26.2 is the real
and do you know
marathon.
why they put that the 0.2 on?
Because that's what the original marathon.
No, do you
in
know what?
Greece.
I think I'm right in saying it's because the first one was run in front of Queen Victoria in England.
No, it was run in Greece.
Well, obviously it was run in Greece all those years ago, and I think it was only. I don't know. Maybe I think this is right. It was 26 miles, the Grecian one. But the one that we run today, 26.2, is because Queen Victoria was present at one of the ones in the 1800s, and where they had her stationed on the platform was 0.2 miles after the finish line, and that's how it's 26.2.
Well, I'm glad that's added there, because that's the real challenge. You've run 26 miles.
And the 0.2.
And your body is torturing you.
Right.
Every muscle and nerve in your body is telling you, this is madness. You've given us pain, so we are punishing you right back. And breathing is painful. And looking down the street, you see that banner with the word "finish" written on it, going across the. It's 0.2 miles.
Oh my gosh.
I've been there.
And your body
That's
says,
rough.
I can't do it. And you got to train your mind to say to the body, you can do it. You will do it. And the body is telling you, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And so it's that battle going on in your mind. You can do it. You can do it. And I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And you strain and push yourself and finally throw yourself across the line underneath that banner sign. And you've done a true marathon, 26.2 miles. 0.2 is very much organically a part of a marathon.
Did you just run the one, or have you done more than one?
I've done 6.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And Brad's
You like the
done
torture.
8.
Have you? I mean,
And Brad's time is much better than mine.
what sort of hours do you get by in? Is it 5 or something?
Brad, his best time on with the marathon is 3 hours and 13 minutes.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Bravo.
Wow, that's running.
My best marathon time is 3 hours and 39 minutes.
Well, not to be sniffed at either.
Yeah.
None at all.
No.
Wow.
What sort of does that work out at per mile? Is that like a 5-minute mile or a 6-minute mile? What is that?
I don't.
Someone would have to get the calculator out.
It's been so long.
That's some running.
It's fast.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
no shit.
And I'm proud of it. And there's a documentary film coming up, an amazing film titled 26.2 and Life.
Right.
It's the story of convicts at San Quentin prison who do the marathon in the prison yard.
Oh.
It's came out. Is it?
How many hundred?
Yes, I've heard of that.
Elapsed.
Yeah.
And these people have a life before they got into San Quentin, and their lives have been changed by this.
It's meant to be a very good documentary.
It's a powerful documentary. It's coming out very soon.
Yeah. So speaking of running, I mean, we're always a runner, and you carried the torch in the 1984 Olympics, didn't you?
Oh, that was a thrill.
How about that?
Yes. And that's a gift.
Here in LA.
Here in LA. The Olympics was here in Los Angeles. And they had this fundraising program with a contribution of $1,000, I think. You get to run a kilometer.
Yes. Initially you wanted to do several of the cities in America, didn't you?
Yes.
And
and this
they wouldn't let you.
This was a gift from Harv Bennett.
Right. That's right.
One of the Star Trek movies was coming out the year of the marathon.
And it was a good publicity.
And, he knew that I wanted to do the marathon. He said, would you like to do it if we sponsor you? And I said, I would hug you and kiss you for that opportunity. And you can be there at the finish line, and sweaty me will throw my body on you. And so that was a wonderful gift.
Oh, lovely.
From Harv Bennett.
Yeah.
I think he got the $1,000 from the movie budget.
That's awesome.
I don't doubt that for a second.
Marketing receipt.
Yeah.
Annika Panika, a member on YouTube. This is not a question. It's a popular sentiment amongst the fans. Thank you for your pride, patriotism, and activism, Mr. Takei. May you live long and continue to prosper.
How nice. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And we will be trekking together.
Trekking for life.
Some days I'm good, and we'll see. We'll see what the questions are.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't watched it all, but I've watched quite a lot. I've watched a lot of your shit lately.
We'll boldly go where I've never been.
Ooh. Okay. It's time to play some Star Trek trivia.
All right.
The rules are pretty simple. It's you three against producer Mark. And today you three are playing for Patreon member Jabber. Well, Mark is playing for our brand newest member.
Oh, I forgot about this part. I gotta look it up. 1 second.
Read that again.
So you three are playing for one of our Patreon members. So if you guys
Who's called Jabber.
win, his name's Jabber. If you guys win, he gets
Jabber
a little card.
with a B?
Yeah,
Thank you, Jabber.
Jabber, thank you for being a member.
We're in for you.
Who's Jabber?
We don't
We
know.
have no idea.
He's one of our fans.
But
and
they help us out.
members.
God
yeah.
One
bless
of our
him.
members on Patreon. They contribute monthly so that we can do
Am I
this.
holding this right?
And
Yeah, it doesn't matter how you hold it as long as you get your
I,
finger on the button.
I'm
Right,
playing
yeah.
for.
There you go. You got it.
Get this. I'm playing for David Livingston,
No way.
who just signed up
D-Live.
in the last 40 minutes.
You mean the David Livingston?
I mean, I recognize the email. I think it's the
I
David
don't know
Livingston.
him at all.
He's very nice.
He was your first grandchild. He was a line producer on Next Generation, who then went on to direct and directed a
came
lot of
much
our
A lot of
episodes.
ours.
Yeah.
He directed the show that this is
Yes.
based on, or referenced.
and he was taking
From.
photos at United We Trek.
In homage
Yeah.
of, I think is
Thank
what we're
you.
looking for.
Thank you.
In homage of him.
He's very lovely. A nice man.
All right.
Okay, question number 1. You guys ready?
Yes.
All right. In the original series episode, The Naked Time,
Oh, yeah.
with what kind of weapon does Sulu offer to protect Lieutenant Uhura?
I know that.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
A, a phaser, B, a bat'leth, C, a sword, or D, a Romulan disruptor?
Oh, we got the green.
Oh, I got the green.
Oh, bugger! I thought
Nuts.
we had it.
no.
Oh, how do you get the green?
It's
By
whoever
pressing at
clicked
the
it
right
first.
time.
Yeah.
Now I kind of
it's
feel bad.
it's a time.
I
How
usually
quickly
never
you
win the
press your
buzzer
button.
game.
I'm going to win on a technicality here. Say what you like.
Well, what if you press it immediately
You
and
want-
get green, but my answer is wrong?
Well, then we
Then
can
he gets.
confer.
We all
yeah.
get to talk
We
about
can-
it.
we can
and then
confer.
If we're wrong, he gets to answer.
Yeah.
But he's going to say, what are you going to say?
I'm going to say, I didn't hear them all, but you defended Uhura with a sword, with a,
Yeah, it's not a sword.
It's a rapier, rap.
It's a foil.
foil, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fencing pole.
1 all.
Which is a kind of sword,
Which is
to be clear.
It's in the
Okay.
I would really
And
beg
the
to differ
joke.
there.
it's in the sword genre.
Dominic is, I agree with what Dominic
I
saying,
did
but I'm gonna
extensive
take the point
research
anyway.
for
Question number 2.
It's a
Question
movie.
number
because I knew somebody would get on our case about
I
it.
think it's a fencing foil, is what we would
It's
call
a fencing foil.
Yeah, I mean,
but
yeah.
he says it's
Whatever.
sharp. And if
Foil
it's sharp,
sword.
Yeah, we didn't get the green. So go.
Okay.
I still don't understand this game.
That's what makes
Don't
it
you worry
fun.
your pretty little head about it, love. We got you.
Thank you.
Question number 2. In the Enterprise episode First Flight, who is one of the Starfleet commanders Jonathan Archer competes with for a chance to become the first human to break the warp
Mark.
To break the
to
warp.
break the warp 2 barrier?
Who is that?
A. A.G. Robinson, B. Commander Tucker, C. Admiral Forrest, or D. Commander Eagle?
Did we get it? We got it. That's the tough one.
Well,
It ain't
David
you.
Carradine.
You got green.
It was. Is it? It's what was A? A.G. Robinson and B. And what's D?
B is Commander Tucker,
Yeah, no.
D is Commander Eagle.
D is Commander Eagle.
Eagle. Eagle sounds a little bit much. I'd say
I think it's A.G. Robinson. A. Yes.
Nice. You got it.
1 against 1. Good job, guys. Okay. Question number 3. In the original series episode Space Seed, where on the Enterprise does Khan threaten Kirk's life? A. The bridge. B. The medical decompression chamber. C. Engineering. Or D. All of the above.
Oh, Mark, I got it.
He got Connor's.
What was the last one? Is the last one all of the above?
Correct.
Who has a green?
Mark.
Oh, you
Mark
have it.
does.
I have it. All of the, because he threatens them everywhere except for maybe the bridge. All of the above.
Oh, trickery.
Trickery.
Chris,
2-1.
Chris tricked that out.
All right.
All
Close.
right. Question number 4. In the Deep Space Nine episode, Through the Looking Glass, Sisko crosses over into the Mirror Universe to persuade which character to join the Terran rebels?
Oh.
A. Mirror Bashir. B. Mirror O'Brien. C. Mirror Jennifer Sisko. Or D. Mirror Dax.
Do we get green? Parker!
No, Mark.
How do I keep doing this? I never get the green. So
Yeah,
I'm
you
really
do. This is really weird.
Cisco's wife, Mrs. Cisco.
Yep.
All
All
right.
right.
I knew that.
You got that buzzer.
Did you? I did.
I must have gotten
watched it
Connor's
recently.
buzzer.
That's what I was saying.
So if you didn't get it in on time, then
Yeah,
You're
no,
out.
it's gone.
He gets
That's
it. He
3-1.
got it first.
All
Yeah. Okay. Question number 5. In Voyager, which role does Neelix not serve aboard the ship? A. Cook. B. Morale officer. C. Ambassador. Or D. Engineer.
What's going on, Chris? Are you like in cahoots?
I think you control the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Captain Sulu just reprimanded me.
All right.
He watched a YouTube video on how to get that going.
Go on, what's your answer?
Engineering.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you did well, Mark.
Well done. 4-1.
Didn't know
It was a
it.
kicking.
So, David Livingston, you get
Yeah.
a car.
David Livingston gets a car.
That big.
All right, guys.
And then
I would like to take this opportunity to remind everyone who's watching this video to please like and subscribe if you can. It really helps us a lot. Consider please joining us on Patreon or as a member right here on YouTube. We have an amazing community that we're building, and we have a lot of people who you can trek out with and hang out with and have fun if you're interested in supporting us in a more meaningful way. We have merchandise. We have our website, shuttlepodshow.com, with ways to contribute to the sustainability of the show, and we really appreciate and love all of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Are we ready to see how George will do on Connor's remote island?
Oh, yes.
What?
We're going to maroon you on a desert island.
Connor has an island.
It's a game.
No, it's not. I don't know. Pack your bag. We're
This is
going.
real.
All right, so here's the deal. You are deserted on an island. You're by yourself. You are given your preferred work of religion and the works of Shakespeare. That's like a Motel 6. You just open up the drawer and there it is. You pull them out. And then your cuisine, your author, your musician / composer, and your dessert. Now, say for instance, dessert, if you pick ice cream, you get all the ice cream. If you pick...
Wait, start from the beginning now. I'm trying to follow.
So you have 4 selections. This is for the rest of your life. You get to pick your cuisine. Like if you pick Italian food, you get all the Italian food.
That's all you get. That's all you get.
But
That's all you-
you're gonna have to pick one. And then your author, you get their complete works. Your
Whatever
musician
author.
/ composer, their complete works. And then your dessert, whatever you select,
Favorite.
all of it. And then you get a bonus item. And I like to use this as an example. Jimmy Darren decided he wanted to have a Ferrari on his deserted island. And we were like, what are you going to do with it? And he said, just go sit in it.
I'm going to look cool.
So you can have something that helps you.
So the deserted island is a given.
Yes.
We're all on the
Yes.
deserted
I'm sorry, but you're going to a deserted island. The bonus item cannot get you off the island, and it can't be another person.
all by yourself.
Yeah.
You
By
have all
yourself.
the cuisine in the world, or
You're doing pretty good. All right. So what would be your musician?
my musician is Mozart.
Oh,
Well done.
lovely.
Your author?
Author would be John Steinbeck. No, maybe it'd be Shakespeare.
You already
You
get
get
Shakespeare.
Oh, we have it.
You get that. That's a given.
Yeah, your work of religion and Shakespeare are already handed to you.
Oh, we have that.
Yeah.
Then the author would be Arthur Miller.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
Your
Cuisine.
cuisine.
Cuisine. I'm omnivorous, and I love food. I love French, Italian.
What's your favorite? You get one of them.
I love.
If pressed, and we're pressing.
Or Japanese as
Yeah.
an infinite variety. I was telling somebody I've had live fish. And it is delicious. And we went to this very exclusive Japanese restaurant. It's $500 for each person.
Oof.
And it's...
That's original series money, mate. It's out of my league.
Well, I've done more work since Star Trek.
All right, so would it be Japanese?
But I love French food too.
Yeah, but you have to pick one.
And I love Italian.
He's having Frappanese Italian, you.
And Mexican is very common too. But I love Mexican food.
Brad, tell him to pick one. It's only a game.
I know, but I want to be truthful and decisive. But I'm omnivorous. It's hard for me to decide which I love
Let's go with
over
dessert.
anything else.
Do you like dessert?
I love
Do you do
dessert.
sweet stuff?
As a matter of fact, last night we didn't have the apple turnover at Cantor's, and so we saved it for breakfast this morning.
Oh, that's the way to do it.
There you go.
That's
Save that
decadent.
pastry for breakfast.
There you go.
So you can't select your cuisine. Okay, fair enough. We are going to send you boxes.
Yeah.
You'll never know what it's going to be.
You get Uber Eats.
That's right.
Mystery
Your
cuisine.
dessert.
What dessert do I like?
Uber Eats comes to the island.
It's the
Fucking
French
hilarious.
that does.
It's speedboats.
Some French dessert you can't pronounce. You speak French.
Pavlova. What do you like?
No, Pavlova is
It's
Australian.
Russian. What's that French one? I think you're thinking of. Is it ice? No. What is that?
If I can make a suggestion,
Something flambé.
It would behoove
Flambé.
you in your lifetime spent on this island to have, as opposed to a flambe or bananas Foster or something, if you picked like cookies, you get every flavor of cookie. It's just one of those things.
Oh, poison in the
Ice
well.
cream is all flavors of ice cream. Pies, you get every flavor.
I love ice cream.
Oh, okay.
And if I can get all those many flavors
Yes, you
of
can.
Ice cream,
Any flavor.
I'll go with ice cream.
There you go.
Then you're going to have that for breakfast, lunch, and dessert.
No, what makes the eating process so wonderful and so delicious is its uniqueness, separateness.
Agreed.
If you have it all the time, it loses.
Of course, exactly. I think if you were on your deserted island and picked cookies, in about a year you'd be like, I hate cookies.
I don't like cookies enough.
No.
And I don't like cookies that much.
I don't mind.
Well, but ice cream would do the same thing, I think, eventually.
No, there's infinite variety in ice cream.
That's true. Your bonus item. Your bonus item is something that just makes you feel better or helps you be more comfortable on your island. Like, I personally think that a machete would be a very good idea.
Yes. Hunter likes machetes.
But that's not edible.
No. It doesn't have to be edible. It's literally just you get a bonus item. I mean, you could pick a pillow. You could pick a hammock.
Something that you just couldn't, a luxury item you couldn't live without, is it?
You know, I did a play in Edinburgh, as a matter of fact, at the festival.
The Undertow.
Undertow, yes. And it's in a deserted island in the Pacific.
Yes.
Two enemies, an American and a Japanese.
Yeah.
A young American and a middle-aged Japanese. Enemies.
Like hell in the Pacific.
I didn't see
Kind
that.
of
But this was by Shimon Winselberg. And we're at each other's throats at the beginning because we're enemies. But we don't speak the same language. All my dialogue was in Japanese, and the young Americans, dialogue is all in English. We don't speak each other's language. We can't communicate with each other. But eventually we'll realize not only are we dependent on each other for survival, but for our humanity, to have companionship. And that's a lesson we learn. But man is a warlike creature.
Truculent.
And the war comes up, and we both wind up killing each other. A wonderful play, a very sobering message.
What year was that in Edinburgh? That was...
what year was that?
Was it 60s still?
No.
Was it during or after? It was after Star Trek?
After Star Trek. And, we stayed at the Royal Scots Club.
Fantastic.
And that's where I discovered real scones.
Right.
Breakfast.
Right.
Fresh baked scones.
Right.
And the scent.
Strictly speaking, it's a scone.
Scone.
A scone.
Is it
We call it scone.
pronunciation?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, scone. Yeah.
What did I say?
Scone.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a scone.
Scone.
Yeah, strictly
Scone.
speaking.
Strictly speaking.
A Scotsman would never say scone. They'd be like, what now? It's a scone.
I discovered the wonderful transporting scent.
A fluffy scone.
And then
with,
you crack that, and the steam comes up.
Yeah.
And
clotted cream on it is
clotted
particularly
cream.
nice, with some jam on top. Yeah, I'm taking that.
There you go. Is that your bonus item?
There we go.
Is it really? Scone? Oh, really? Oh, there you go.
All of Scotland. Well, this has been amazing.
Yeah, God bless you, George. It's been such a delight having you today.
Yeah, it really has.
Well, the latter part has been baffling and totally disorienting. I still don't
the wheels
understand.
came off the bus there at the end a little bit.
Yeah, but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
I've had fun.
Oh,
God,
thank you.
I'm so
thank
glad you have, mate. It's a joy. Happy holidays to you. To
Happy
you both.
holidays.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for sharing this afternoon
Thank
together.
you, pal.
Yes, thank you.
We love you, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Before
really.
you go, we have a few gifts for you.
Oh.
So we have this for a special occasion from Alamitos Vineyards in San Jose. Thank you, Sean and Chris. And Sean is here today.
Sean is here today. Yay!
There's the
Let's see who you are.
Let's see who Sean is.
Sean, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
He has a lovely vineyard.
This is your...
This is one of his,
Only winery in San Jose, actually.
only one in San Jose, not in the Silicon Valley. I mean, in that
Napa?
Napa Valley.
Yeah.
No. We're in San Jose. We're in the outskirts near Santa Cruz.
I see.
Very cute area.
California, all of California. The Santa Barbara area produces wonderful wines too. And somebody told me in the desert area of like Palm Springs, there are wonderful wines.
Well, Temecula is Temecula has some fantastic.
What language is Temecula?
It's a native tribe, I believe.
Yeah. What does it mean?
I think it means good wine. Actually, I think it means red wine.
Nice to see you in action one more time, Captain.